We've all been there, right? That foggy, grumpy feeling after a night of too little sleep. But what if you just stopped sleeping altogether? The fallout goes way beyond just being tired. We're going to dive into the steep price your mind and body pay when you decide to ditch your pillow.
We've all pushed it. We've pulled an all-nighter for a project or stayed up way too late studying. But where's the actual limit? What is the absolute breaking point? How long can a human being truly go without sleep before the system just shuts down? You might be surprised by the answer. 11 days. Yep, that's 264 hours straight with zero sleep. And get this, the world record was set back in 1964 by a high school kid, Randy Gardner, for a science fair project. Now, he apparently recovered just fine, but what his body and mind went through gives us this kind of chilling look at the absolute edge of human endurance.
Okay, so 11 days is an extreme, but here's the thing that's way more common: chronic sleep debt. According to the CDC, a massive 35% of adults in the US just aren't getting the sleep they need. So this isn't some crazy experiment for most people. For millions, it's just their everyday reality. So what is the magic number? Well, the CDC's guidelines show that our sleep needs change a ton over our lifetimes. You've got newborns needing up to 17 hours, all the way down to the 7 or more hours that are recommended for most of us adults. The big takeaway here is that if you're consistently falling short of your number, there are going to be consequences.
All right, let's start with a scenario a lot of us know all too well, the classic all-nighter. What's actually happening inside your brain and your body during those 24 hours? Let me tell you, the toll is probably a lot higher than you think.
Now, this is where it gets really eye-opening. The CDC makes a direct comparison. Staying awake for just 24 hours straight impairs you on the same level as having a blood alcohol content of 0.10%. That is over the legal limit to drive in most places. Just let that sink in for a second, the next time you're thinking about getting behind the wheel after a sleepless night. So here's what's happening pretty much right away. Your judgment gets cloudy, your coordination takes a hit, and trying to remember things becomes a real struggle. And inside your body, it's flooding itself with stress hormones like cortisol, which spikes your blood sugar and seriously increases your risk of having an accident. And here's something truly wild that your brain does to cope. It's called local sleep. This means that even though you look and feel like you're awake, tiny parts of your brain are actually shutting down. Neurons in certain areas just go dark to save energy. So you're walking around, but little bits of your brain are already asleep on the job. So what happens when that one all-nighter bleeds into a second or even a third? Well, once you push past that 24-hour mark, you start heading into a steep decline. This is where you really start to lose control. By the time you hit 48 hours, your ability to think clearly has just tanked. Your brain basically stops asking for permission to rest and just starts taking it. At this point, staying awake isn't really a choice anymore. And your brain takes that rest in these little bursts called microsleeps. These are short, completely involuntary moments where you just black out for a few seconds. You often don't even know it's happening, which is what makes them so incredibly dangerous, especially if you're doing anything that requires focus, like driving. And as the hours pile up, the psychological damage gets really intense. This quote from the Randy Gardner experiment shows you what happens at the far end. By 72 hours, not sleeping doesn't just make you tired, it actually starts to sever your connection to reality itself. After 3 days, you're basically a shell of your normal self. We're talking beyond extreme fatigue. You're now dealing with intense paranoia, trouble focusing, and you might even struggle to put a coherent sentence together. Your brain is just not functioning properly. Now, so far we've been talking about the high drama of staying awake for days on end. But for that 35% of people we mentioned, the real damage is quieter. It's the slow, steady war of attrition that chronic sleep deprivation wages against your body's most important systems. First on the chopping block is your body's personal security detail, the immune system. You see, sleep is when your body produces the soldiers that fight off germs and infections. When you don't sleep enough, your body can't build up its defenses. It makes fewer of these critical infection-fighting things like antibodies and cytokines. So what does that mean for you? It means you're not only way more likely to get sick if you're exposed to a virus, but it's also going to take you a whole lot longer to get better. And it's not just your defenses that are down. A lack of sleep also throws your metabolism and hormones completely out of whack. And this has a direct impact on your appetite and your weight. So,
Here's how it works. Not sleeping enough messes with your hunger hormones. It lowers leptin, that's the one that tells your brain, hey, we're full, while it cranks up ghrelin, which is the hormone that screams, I'm hungry. This hormonal 1-2 punch is exactly why you crave junk food when you're tired, and why it raises your long-term risk for obesity and type 2 diabetes.
But maybe the scariest consequence of chronic bad sleep has to do with your heart. Every single night, your cardiovascular system uses that downtime to do vital maintenance and repair work. Consistently robbing it of that time is a huge problem. Chronic sleep deprivation is directly linked to high blood pressure, inflammation, and a much higher risk of heart disease, heart attack, and stroke. Your body needs those hours to heal your blood vessels and keep your heart strong. Skipping out on that is a massive gamble with your health.
Okay, that was a whole lot of doom and gloom, I know. But here's the good news. This is something you have the power to fix. It's not about magically finding more hours in the day. It's about being intentional and protecting the hours you have for rest. Let's walk through a few proven ways to do that. Improving your sleep all starts with what experts call good sleep hygiene. Basically, it's about building strong routines in the right environment. Consistency is king here. Going to bed and waking up around the same time, even on weekends, helps set your body's internal clock. And how you prepare for sleep matters just as much. Making your bedroom a dark, cool, tech-free sanctuary, or creating a wind-down routine that tells your body, okay, it's time to power down. When you really get down to it, we have to change the way we think about sleep. It's not some luxury you earn or the first thing you sacrifice when life gets crazy. It's a pillar of your health, every bit as critical as what you eat or how much you exercise. It is a biological non-negotiable. So we've seen the science, right? From short-term impairment to long-term disease, the evidence is crystal clear. The real question isn't what we've learned, it's what we're going to do about it. So I'll leave you with this. What's the one small change you're going to make, starting tonight, to reclaim your rest?